Alrighty. Hello, everyone. First of all, happy Halloween and welcome to another awesome Geek Vibes live interview. I'm your host, Tia, and I have with me Eric Winkler. Hello, and again, happy Halloween.
Yeah, hi. Tia, nice to meet you and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before I hit record, I was complimenting Eric on his background with all the Michael Myers heads there, and I
Mhm.
believe there's a Halloween poster I see.
Mhm.
And you were telling me something really cool about a fan film that you had just written. If you wouldn't mind even just starting with that, because I thought it was really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's it's called Michaela, and it's about a young woman who takes her fandom for Michael Myers just a little bit too far. And I think we're going to do a crowdfunding campaign for it. Just raise a little bit of money. Of course, since it's a fan film, you can't like actually make any money off of it. But just to pay some of the super talented people, for their time and so forth. But yeah, the same guy who did our initial poster for I Am Lisa, which you can see right there. Um, yeah, that's the one that I sent you this morning. He did some really amazing art for Michaela. So hopefully you'll see a crowdfunding campaign for that shortly.
That's really cool. And thank you, by the way, for sending me that poster and doing it so quickly. I got your message and I was kind of busy cleaning this morning. So I
Mm,
just saw it really quick and I was like, okay, I'll respond to that a little later when I'm done. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's really cool. And so I got a chance to watch I Am Lisa, which is really kind of perfect for today being Halloween. It's a kind of werewolf film. And first, you mentioned, crowdfunding for Michaela. Was there any sort of crowdfunding when it came to I Am Lisa?
No, it's such a difficult thing to do and so much work to do and do it right. We wanted to avoid that if at all possible, and we were able to avoid it. We thank our investors so much. I'm the executive producer, and if you watch through the end credits, I dedicate the movie to the memory of my father. And so I was a big investor also. So yeah, it's just been absolutely exhilarating to make the movie with so many talented people. So yeah, yeah. But
Um, Previously, I had gotten the chance to speak with Kristen, who is the lead in I Am Lisa. She plays Lisa. Very wonderful individual, might I say. I mean, she's just like one of the nicest people that I've spoken to on this network. But um, so she plays, eventually she gets to the point where she becomes a werewolf. She's bitten in the film, and I wanted to ask if you were always into, say, the monster genre, creature features. I kind of got my answer looking at your setup there, but
yeah, right. So
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So no, I know that I remember in grade school being elementary school being fascinated by chainsaws or the movie Predator. I'm old, so the movie Predator came out when I was in middle school, I want to say, and just being so fascinated by it. And um I remember begging my mom to let my dad take me to go see RoboCop in the theaters when it came out in '87. So I was 11, and yeah, she let my dad take me. So and RoboCop is such a huge influence for us. I mean, it's a revenge movie through and through, really. Uh, and so, sorry, excuse me, myself and our director are just gigantic fans of that movie and the revenge genre. But yeah, so I've always been kind of interested in horror and creatures. And to go back to what you said first, yeah, Kristen Vaganis is, I wrote the movie to where um, a lot of the movie would ride on the shoulders of whoever was playing Lisa. Like if if Starry Eyes is one of my favorite movies. There's a poster for it right there. um, and that's a movie where Alex Esso, if she doesn't give a good performance, that movie is not going to work. Right. And I wrote Lisa to be that way. And our entire cast are just fantastic actors. But yeah, Kristen is an absolute force, and she attacked the role with great courage. You're right, she's absolutely amazing. I mean, she's our LA daughter. She's part of our family now, and we love her to death. So it's really this whole experience. I can't think about it too much, or else I'll start weeping, because we became one big happy family and made this what I think is just fantastic collaborative artwork together. So it was exhilarating and so meaningful to me. So, yeah.
I am not saying this because obviously like I'm interviewing you and everything. I legitimately liked I Am Lisa. I've seen a lot of indie films. I'm quite a fan of indie films, and this had a really great production for, say, an indie film. What was it like filming it? Say, how many days did it take? Was it a short thing? Like, what were, say, the challenges, but also the upsides to putting together an indie film like I Am Lisa?
Okay, yeah. So we had principal photography was 14 days, with a couple days, break each week, of course. But yeah, 14 days here in Kansas City in July last year. So it was very hot at times. So that was one of the negatives. But this crew, a lot. I mean, between myself and Patrick, we pretty much knew everybody in the cast and crew already. Kristen was basically the only one who wasn't a Kansas Cityan, and we made her an honorary Kansas Cityan whenever she first came here by taking her to barbecue, get barbecue right away. So
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, right. So no, it was 14 days, and I don't think we went long on any day. So that's a testament to Vic, our AD, and Patrick, Hanuman Brown Eagle, who's our DP. Basically, I mean, it takes the entire cast and crew working together well, and we finished early every day. But it was, 14 days is, as I understand it, is pretty short for amount of time to shoot a full feature. So yeah, and we cranked it out, and I think one of the advantages to shooting in a place like Kansas City is, we used a lot of, the surrounding small towns and stuff to make, kind of create our little town of Northbrook. And it just worked fantastically. And when you go to somebody in Kansas City and you're like, can I use your location? They're usually like, oh, wow, our location is going to be in a movie. And I think if you're in LA and stuff, people be like, yeah, how much are you going to pay me to use my right. backyard or something? So yeah, it's this movie is really about the whole community, because a lot of our locations and stuff, yeah, they just went above and beyond to be helpful, and didn't charge us much. So as an indie film, that's important. And furthermore, I mean, to make your money that you have go further, it's great when you have locations that are basically already set dressed, like that little bookstore that Lisa runs. I mean, we didn't have to do any set dressing with that little, it's kind of a quirky little place, but yeah, it just looks fantastic, I think. So yeah, so that's some of the pluses and minuses. The only minus really was that it got
hot. I was wondering if that bookstore was something that was staged or an actual bookstore, so that's really neat to find that out. I had been thinking while I was watching it, because again, it's a horror film, but a lot of the beginning seems like it's taking care to really showcase the environment of the town, say. You have the bookstore. They go to that small theater that's showing old
Mhm.
movies and everything.
Mhm.
How important was that for you to make sure that you showed this like heart of this town?
Yeah, very important. And that's something that we've been getting complimented on. My script guy that I work with, I showed him an early version of the movie, and he's like, "Yeah, I believe these locations." So yeah, absolutely. And what's really meta is that that scene where they're in the movie theater. I actually saw Lisa in that exact same theater and that exact same screen when they had a short run of it here recently. So that whole scene is actually kind of meta for me because for myself, that's the way I actually saw that movie for the first time. That exact same scenario. It was The Last Man on Earth. I'm a huge Vincent Price fan, and it was showing at that exact theater, free with concession purchase. And so there's a scene that's kind of just kind of silly in there that everybody laughs at, and that's everybody laughed at that scene for some reason when we saw it. It was just kind of cheesy, I guess. But so yeah, I love the movie. Obviously, it was a big influence on us. The whole I Am Legend, Last Man on Earth thing. But yeah. So
It was really great. It was awesome seeing that. I just liked the buildup of seeing who Lisa was, her
yeah.
and her friend, and how much she enjoys working at the bookstore. So she has obviously this arch nemesis who comes in, and
Mhm.
it's a very corrupt system because you find out that the arch nemesis mom is literally the sheriff of the town, and her
Mhm.
brother also works as the law, and they're just really kind of terrible people. um what was, and I know that you said you wanted to write a revenge film, but why kind of did you decide that, okay, we're going to get, say, like even the law involved, that they're going to be these terrible of people?
Yeah. I'm not for sure. Getting the law involved is the terrible people. I don't know. I sort of I sort of it is horror genre basically just because there's a werewolf in it, but in a lot of ways I consider it more of a psychological movie. As far as like what does a survivor do? It uses the werewolfism as a metaphor. And I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, I guess.
No, no, it's perfect. I love it. I was just like, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, there really is nowhere that Lisa can turn, because you would expect, you're going to go to the sheriff in town and you're at
Right.
least going to say, hey, this woman assaulted me, even though it's your daughter. This needs to kind of stop. I'm just trying to live my life and work at a bookstore. And, the daughter's doing other, nefarious things such as selling
Hmm.
drugs and stuff. And it's just like, Lisa honestly never had a chance. And I felt so
Yeah.
bad because I'm like, she really didn't do anything. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, she only slapped the sheriff out of, obviously then being insulted. And then she
Hmm.
just, all these terrible, terrible things happened to her.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of look at it as, she was chosen. Um, some people who've seen it are like, well, why do they go ape shit on her if, all she did was, she didn't really do anything. But I always sort of looked at it like the transgressions, like the stealing of the book or whatever that Jessica does, is sort of just a setup. It not to spoil too much, but there's a reason that they sort of selected her for turning into a wolf.
Yeah, I guess I should have said that
Yeah,
beforehand, like spoilers ahead.
yeah, right. Yeah. So no, and I mean, as far as the corrupt police, that's another criticism I heard once is that you know, this is so unreal with the local, law enforcement being like this. And I'm like, have you been to rural America before? So, and I think it's really timely, not to get too political or anything, but I mean, there's obviously work that needs to be done on the law enforcement system. I think we can all agree on that, probably, to make it better for everybody. So yeah, it's a I sort of almost considered it like a superhero origin story. And a few people have compared it to that. And that's really kind of my initial thought before I first wrote it was, I want to make a movie where the young lady, her superpower is basically that she's a werewolf or a vampire. I couldn't decide at first, but I settled on werewolf, and I'm glad I did. So yeah, it's sort of a superhero origin story, and I think there's something kind of primal about the people being entrusted to protect you being so heinous and doing the exact opposite of what they should do. So yeah.
I like that you kind of went back and forth between trying to figure out if it should be a werewolf or a vampire. I mean, what made you ultimately settle on werewolf?
Yeah, I think for me it was just it's just, I don't know. I don't think either are too trendy, but it just seemed like there's more vampire type fiction out there with young women. I mean, I watched so many werewolf movies before and after, after I wrote the script, but before we started filming. And you've got Ginger Snaps, which is one of the best. There's one out of, I think, Denmark called When Animals Dream, which I think is, if I had to compare our movie to one movie, I would say that one's the closest, because it's a young woman, and there's some bullying that goes on in there too. So yeah, When Animals Dream is a big influence also. And honestly, it came down to, I knew we'd be filming during the day some, and I know you as a writer, you have such creative freedom. You can write your own vampire rules or your own werewolf rules and stuff, but I knew I wanted Lisa to be able to walk around during the day and stuff, just because it would make things easier for us shooting. And honestly, like I said, the werewolf movies, they tend to be about the protagonist's struggle with their loss of humanity, and I wanted to give Lisa a reason to give in to the wolf, basically. And I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting way to approach it.
No, I loved it. It was funny because I do a podcast every Sunday where we do like top 10 lists and everything. And for Halloween, we were trying to figure out to be in like the Halloween genre. And we had previously done like top 10 vampires, top 10 zombie movies. And at the end of the zombie one, me and my co-host were wondering, like, should we do werewolves? And I was like, I've never really like, not that I haven't seen werewolves, it's just me. I feel like, you, as you said, you see like vampires much more. They're almost like a little oversaturated. So
Mhm.
it was just funny because then all of a sudden now I'm watching a film where it's a werewolf, and I
Yeah.
really liked it. I loved the practical effects. It's funny you had mentioned the director Patrick earlier, because he actually reached out to me as well. I'm
Mhm.
actually speaking with him on Monday, which is
Yeah.
great. And I had asked him about the practical effects. Is there any CGI? And he had said the only CGI is, say, the fire. And I thought it was really cool that you guys were able to accomplish what you accomplished with simply makeup and all of that, because to me, and it's not trying to like say throw any shade at people who have done things previously, but when you
Right.
see like people doing CGI werewolves and maybe they don't have like the highest of budgets, like a bigger studio, it doesn't
Yeah.
always come out looking that great.
Right. We're, me, Patrick, our special effects guy, Jake, we're all, children of the 80s, and we grew up on the horror movies of the 80s. And so, yeah, we all love practical effects. It's just so much more organic looking. And right from the get-go, when I first wrote the initial drafts of this movie, I wanted, I knew we probably weren't going to have the money to make a real, like, convincing transformation like American Werewolf in London, which is the greatest transformation. And it's like, it basically comes down to, it's like, do we want to spend our entire budget on a werewolf transformation in a werewolf suit, or do we want to flesh out the story and just kind of use the werewolfism as a metaphor? And Lisa, it's not too much of a spoiler alert, but even when she's like in her full even when she's in her full wolf stage, she still is recognizable as Lisa, which I wanted it that way from the get-go, just because I wanted the audience to empathize with her still. And it's Kristen can do more acting that way, and so yeah. What was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine. I was just saying, I mostly was just kind of commenting on the fact that it was practical effects. And you did,
Right.
answer while saying that you didn't want to say blow your budget on CGI. And I felt that it really worked in that, direction.
Yeah. One other thing I was going to say is, this was just shortly after I wrote the initial drafts of Lisa. My brother and I went and saw Fright Night, which is one of our favorite horror movies, at the Alamo Draft House here in Kansas City. And it was
I love the Alamo. I don't mean to interrupt, but we have an Alamo here in New York, and it's my favorite movie theater.
I love it too, man. Because you hate going to movies where people are like talking and stuff, and it's like they don't mess around at the Alamo.
They really don't. They're so great. I've been to so many theaters where people are literally talking on the phone, and you're sitting there like, "Can you please stop in Alamo?" One warning after that, you're leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. So we went to see a screening of 1985's Fright Night. I've got a poster for it over here. You can see it.
I love it.
But we went to that, and Jake Jackson, who would turn out to be a producer and our special effects guy, just happened to be sitting right next to my brother and I. And we just kind of struck up a conversation with him. And after the movie was over, we talked with him for maybe an hour about Lisa. And he was interested in the get-go. So, he's really a master at his craft, and just did an amazing job for us with all of our practical effects.
Yeah, I thought that it did really well. And there were some scenes, honestly, that, because I'm not say like the biggest horror movie fan. Like I love Nightmare on Elm Street, but then when it comes to like Halloween movies, I'm much more of a, like, I just watched Hocus Pocus before we got on, like, that kind of.
My son watched that last night, as a matter of fact, for the first time. So yeah,
for the first time. Oh wow, that's
he's 11. So
okay.
Yeah.
I love it. So like that's kind of my genre of, say, like Halloween movies. So when I was watching I Am Lisa, there were definitely a few scenes where I kind of had to like look away because maybe it was like a little too gory. But I was telling Patrick, I said that I Am Lisa has some fantastic kills, which I think is what you're looking for when you want these like monster horror films. And I guess I don't want to now spoil it too much either for people, but one having to do with like a kitchen appliance I thought was like really just great.
Yeah. I remember our distributor early on said about that one, that one is worth the price of admission alone, or something like that. And I was like, yeah, cool. That one was always that way. I will tell you, this isn't much of a spoiler. I will tell you we wanted the kills to kind of progress in terms of severity. And so it's funny, the first one, which is, I won't say what it is, but it was put together by Jake, our effects guy, and it was modeled after a kill in the first Creepshow movie. And I remember later on watching Creepshow because I hadn't seen it, and then when that kill happens, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just like ours. So it's my favorite artist of all time, Peter Steele, always says, just we only steal from the best. So.
Well, yeah, and to me, I always think like imitation is a greatest, form of flattery. The scene that I'm speaking about very much reminded me of Jason X, which isn't personally, say, to me, the best sort of Jason movie, but the scene that I think it emulates goes into, again, one of my favorite kills in a horror film. Even if you ask, say, people who absolutely despise Jason X, I apologize for my dog.
That's okay. I've got it. All good.
Even people who like absolutely despise Jason X love that kill. So as soon as I saw it, it's like, I like that. That's what it reminds me of.
That's funny. The kill you're talking about. I thought of it and I'm like, surely this hasn't been done before. But then I look it up online, and it's been done on like American Horror Story and like Sleepaway Camp 2 and this and that. But I've seen those ones, and I think ours looks the best.
I thought it looked great, and especially the again, I had this like nice little conversation with Patrick, which is funny. I was trying to like not ask too many questions because I was like, let's save this for our interview. And I just kind of helped going back and forth. And he told me how that scene was done. And I just thought that, like, again, like so cool that you're able to do that. And I think people who are real fans of how the filmmaking process is would really appreciate all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We built a special device for that kill. A local metalworks company with the guy I used to work with at the Kansas City Star, which is the major metro newspaper here in Kansas City. Basically built a special apparatus to get the underneath shots that were that we use. So yeah, it's really, I mean, I love synergies, and I love networking, and I really used that as much as I could for, making the movie. Yeah.
I loved it. And Eric, I hope you don't mind me asking. It's another thing that I spoke with Patrick about and I wanted to bring up, and it's in no way say like reflected like what I feel about I Am Lisa, because I loved it. But Patrick was explaining that it kind of got a little bit of review bombed on, say, IMDb. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? And in general, I feel like that's happened to a lot of films. Like Captain Marvel was review bombed to others, and it's really disappointing when you see that, because when I went on IMDb, I'm like, it has an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I mean, anyone who kind of looks at that compared to the IMDb, there's obviously something off there.
Yeah, it's, Patrick and I said, we didn't anticipate, I don't even know if this is the case of, our movie being kind of polarizing or not, but I just read a review last night from Andrea Chase from Killer Movie Reviews, and she was really hyping up its feminist, undertones, which is what we wanted from the beginning. I mean, everybody should be a feminist. Feminism is defined as the equality of the sexes. Everybody, I mean, that should just be a given. Everybody should be that. So yeah, it's sort of it's a strange thing, I'm still early in my filmmaking career, but yeah, it's, you get the good reviews, like you said, on Rotten Tomatoes. Basically, anybody who's like an actual reviewer, they've all skewed positive and really had great things to say. And, even the reviews that are, maybe kind of 50%, like on the fence a little bit, they find aspects of the movie that they enjoy, whether it's Kristen or Manon's performance or the cinematography or the story or the musical score by Natalia Perez, who is amazing. So I like those, but yeah, it's a little strange, it's there's a particularly heinous review on YouTube that I don't want to give any pub to, but it's like, man, it's just like, you want to respond to it, but you just can't feed the trolls. And I don't know if, I've talked to other filmmakers, some that have done like LGBT movies, and they told me that there'll be organized religious groups go on just to give you a horrible rating on IMDb, basically. So I don't know, it's sort of discouraging. Ours is kind of low right now, but I sort of feel like once the movie is available on streaming sites come January, that a lot more people will see it. And it seriously touches my heart to hear the positive reviews about it, because you put so much of yourself into the movie. And I always say, there's survivors among our cast and crew. I always knew that there'd be survivors of abuse in our viewing audience, and it's very important for us to always do right by survivors everywhere. And I think the end result is, it's I love exploitation cinema, but we sort of didn't think that was the right route to go with this movie. So it's a little more serious, but it's got I'm a quirky person, so it's got a little bit of my quirky humor in there, which I feel like there's, I think there's time for there's room for a laugh here or there, basically, no matter what you're making. So you just need a little moment of levity real quickly here and there. So especially when you're dealing with something so heavy.
I think I kind of felt a little bit of a chuckle just when, and I guess this is a spoiler really, with not too big, but at one point where she's sitting, Kristen's character Lisa is sitting at the table and she looks at the like bowl of dog food, and I just kind of laughed at it. I was like, is she gonna eat that right now? So I just thought that was kind of humorous. But yeah, I just wanted to ask about the IMDb thing because I was really shocked to kind of hear that, and someone who like watches movies and reviews them and everything, I hate when people just kind of seem to have a vendetta against something. So I just wanted to say that, but I really enjoyed it. You mentioned the music, which I also loved. It's funny, like sometimes in indie films you don't hear say like the best soundtrack, but this had a great soundtrack. And I recently watched an indie film called My Summer as a Goth, which was really good, and they had a fantastic soundtrack as well. So that was really cool. So you said that it's going on demand and streaming services in January, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. And it's currently playing, I think, in select theaters. It came out October 9th.
Yeah. It's it's COVID-19 is just an absolute human tragedy. And so it sounds selfish to say it, but yeah, I mean, since so many people have lost their lives, but yeah, we got, selected for Fright Fest in the UK, and, so no COVID, and I would have gotten to visit London this year. But it is what it is. Our Mutiny Pictures, our distributor, had a lot of movie theaters lined up and so forth, but they're all closing or barely showing any movies. So yeah, right now, I could be wrong. I don't know how many like actual physical theaters are showing it, but the movie can be rented right now virtually from the movie theater that's in the movie, which is an absolute. They just got voted like best in the city. It's independent. They are big proponents of the arts and movies in general. So yeah, if anybody wants to help out a great independent movie theater, it's Screenland, screenlandonline.com, I think it is. And you can rent our movie there, and it really helps out a great movie theater and, starving artists that made this movie.
Absolutely. I believe Kristen had also said that it's kind of being shown at some drive-in theaters, so that's really cool. Eric, before I kind of wrap everything up and let you go here, I did want to ask one, should we expect a sequel to I Am Lisa? And also I would love to give you the opportunity to talk about your next project that you are cooking up.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, you've seen it, so I left a few things kind of mysterious. I left a few question marks. I kind of like, we just got done watching The Leftovers, and I thought it was the perfect kind of, answering some of your questions, but not answering all of them, answering just enough. But no, I left it wide open for sequels. I've actually already written the first draft, part 2, and started on part 3. I've got ideas for a prequel. So whoever does, picks our movie up, I think we're going to pitch doing more Lisa stuff. And my absolute dream would be to do some sort of episodic series. Nice. So yeah, I think it's, our special effects guy, Jake, said it'd be kind of cool to have it like the old Incredible Hulk TV show where he's kind of just roaming the country, things here and there. And this and that. So yeah, hopefully we'll be working on future Lisa material soon. The next movie is called Sober. It's about a young woman who is an alcoholic and also a high school guidance counselor. Mm-hmm. So it's an LGBT themed dramedy, and obviously we love working with Kristen so much. She's going to star as the lead in that movie as well. So Yeah, she's an absolute force, and she's such a talented actress. And I always tell her, there's ain't nobody out there better than she is. So it's, I expect her to completely blow up soon as people get to know her. So yeah, this movie Sober, uh, high hopes for it, and hopefully, you know, uh, we can find some investors for it and get it made soon, because it's a very heartfelt story. So,
Well, I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to review that as well and circle back around with you and talk about it. But Eric, it has been really great speaking with you today. I really do hope that people watch I Am Lisa. The review should be out today as well. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed speaking to you, Kristen, and I'm sure I'll enjoy speaking with Patrick as well. But
yeah, he's good. He's a great guy. He. Sorry to interrupt you, but working with him was just, it was all I ever wanted. Like, I'm not a skilled director like he is, but I wanted to really be involved in the creative process still, and our working relationship was just absolutely perfect. So yeah, Patrick's a great guy. Tell him hi for me.
You guys definitely create a really nice indie horror werewolf and also a revenge film. So I think you did a great job, and I look forward to talking to you more about Sober in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tia.
All right.
It's been great to talk to you.
Awesome. Have a great one, everyone.